I would just say to people to be fully informed. Don't jump in on a whim. Yeah, it needs a lot of communication, a lot of discussion.
Hello and welcome to the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. My name is Sam Hind and it's my honor and privilege to have you join me today for an episode that I've been looking forward to recording for a very, very long time. As many of you know, I'm very passionate about the direct selling industry. I love getting to work with so many different companies, seeing different cultures, and most importantly, seeing how each of these companies in their own way affect and impact many lives. But there's nothing more exciting to me than hearing a founding story from somebody who had a dream, a mission, a vision, and they wanted to share that with the world. And one of the very first companies that I got the honor and privilege of working with in the early days of my business is one that will always be really very close to my heart. And this company is called Reve. We have many, many Reve consultants in our memberships that we still to this day get to work with every single day. But the thing I love about this company is not just the people within it. It's not just the products they produce, but more importantly, it's the story behind the company. And I've wanted to share this story for a long time. I've wanted to hear it from the horse's mouth. And today I got the opportunity to do that. I'd love to introduce you to Phil Hobby. Phil Hobby is not only the founder of Reve, but he's a father of 6, a grandfather to 20. He's been on the board of the Direct Selling Association, and he's a facilitator of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Phil is one of those people who I admire and am inspired by every single day because he is so passionate about what he does. People follow him because of that passion, but in this episode, Phil shares a little bit about his journey into the business that we see today. I think often we look at companies and we only see the big company that has been built from the ground up. We don't necessarily see the blood, sweat, and tears that went in behind the scenes. Phil was really, really honest in our conversation, and he shared some of his struggles and challenges along the way. And of course, what gave him the passion and the drive to start and to run this business for all of these years. So it's my honor and privilege to share with you this interview. I hope you find it as inspiring as I did. And most importantly, you take away from it something that you can use, maybe just a little nugget of gold that's going to help you move forward. Because at the end of the day, it's about growth and learning to grow our amazing businesses. So no matter what company you belong to, no matter where you are in your journey, I really encourage you as you listen to these episodes, think to yourself about what is it that I can learn? And you know what? If you're feeling a little bit flat and run down in your business, a bit tired, and you just need a little bit of inspiration and a perk up today, I think this episode will give that to you. So with no further ado, I'm going to hand over to the interview with the amazing and wonderful Phil Hobby from Reve. Well, thank you so much for tuning in once again to the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. I'm so excited to have you here, and I am even more excited to have the amazing Phil Hobby here with me. Thank you so much for joining us today, Phil.
Thank you, Sam. It's a delight to be with you. And I'm looking forward to the next 30, 60 minutes.
Well, the thing is, I've actually been chomping at the bit to do this episode for a long time because I have had the honor and privilege of working with you and your beautiful family and the whole Reve family for many years now. I don't even know how many years it's been, maybe 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I would think so.
And I know you guys have got an incredible story, but one of the things that I love just so much about you guys is how you have made this industry a real family affair. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today. But before we get into all of that and we hear a little bit more of the Reve story and about your incredible family, can you tell us a fun fact about you?
Okay, I just hit, 1 week ago, I hit quarter of a century. And let's see, a fun fact, I play squash, and I play with one of my best friends. And a few weeks ago, we marked our 45th year of playing squash once a week, 45 years in a row. So that's
Wow.
pretty cool, isn't it?
And hang on, of once a week, 45 years in a row, like not missing a week?
Except when I'm traveling.
I was going to say, I feel like you would, yeah, okay. Except when you're traveling. I love that. So you just said you hit quarter of a century though.
Yeah, three quarters of a century myself. Yep, 75. Bit of a
Three quarters.
milestone.
Okay, I missed that. I was like, quarter of a century. And in my head, I'm going, 25. You must be talking about something else. That's amazing. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
I love it. So, Phil, the reason I pulled you in today was I wanted to hear a little bit more about the Reve story. Now, Reve, for our listeners, is a beautiful family-owned Australian direct selling company. Do you want to share a little bit about Reve with our listeners? Keeping in mind, we do have a lot of people that tune in from all over the globe. So I know that you guys are you're in Australia and New Zealand, you're not in the US. So let's give some context. And then I'd love for you to share a little of this story with our listeners about how this company came to be and your journey into the direct selling industry.
Thank you. So back in 1977, which is the year my wife Jenny and I married, we bumped into a little party plan company. Just accidentally, someone said, "Why don't you have a look at this?" And we had a look and we thought, okay, let's give it a go. And so someone dropped a kit off at our house and spent an hour showing us through the kit and then told us, book as many parties as you can in a week, and I'll see you later. And he jumped in his car and disappeared, and we kind of knew nothing. My wife was fantastic. So she booked 13 parties in 1 week, and the whole thing just took off. And, she was fabulous. And I was working for Myers, a big department store, as an accounts manager. And after a couple of months, she was doing so well and there was money coming in. It was kind of all instant. So I quit Myers and I jumped in too, and went out partying. And then we started recruiting. And the whole thing was just wonderful. So I've been in direct selling now for 38 years, I think, 23, coming up 48 years.
Wow. So just to come back a step, so this was your first business. You worked with another company. You came in as a consultant. And did you say that 2 weeks in or a couple of months in, your wife's bringing in all this money and you're thinking, I'm just going to quit my job?
Yeah, just like that.
That's crazy. Okay.
I think when you're young and in Australia, we have a bit of a culture of having a go. We're not super conservative. So it went really well.
Out, right? We just did. What the heck? Let's just give it a go.
So, the business grew and grew, our business, and the opportunity popped up for Jenny and myself to purchase the Australian license. It was an English business. So we did that, and that went really well, shifted to Sydney to be in the centre of the country and the business world, and grew the business. And then, everything kind of fell off the cliff. Someone that I trusted with all my heart kind of put the metaphorical knife in my back, and as a result, we lost the business, and I was immediately unemployed. We had a house and a big mortgage, but life had been great. We were coping, and then suddenly it all disappeared just like that. And at the time, we had 5 children. The oldest was 7. And we were kind of in shock. But the day after that happened, I just woke up with a feeling that I needed to take action. I needed to act. There were tears on day one, and then after that, I went out and I got 3 jobs working 6 days a week, all selling on commission because there were a lot of business debts that I got left with. And we had 4 or 5 really tough years, paying back the debts and trying to put bread on the table. But after 5 years, we had paid off every business debt, and I was one of the things I was selling was perfume, and I had become stunned at how much women love perfume. Like I'd never had that in my head before, but the company I was selling for didn't really have a vision for hanging around and growing in Australia, so they disappeared, and I thought, well, this would be something I need to do because I see a lot of potential, a lot of promise with it. I didn't have any money to start a business, but I did have a very close friend, the same guy that I've been playing squash with for 45 years. And
I love it.
So I approached him and asked if he would lend some money, which he did on a handshake. He came in as a 50-50 silent partner, but on a handshake he lent me $80,000, and that was the seed capital to start the business. I don't think he ever thought that he would see that money again. He did, because some 5 or 6 years later I bought him out for several $1 million.
Wow.
And I was really thrilled to do that. I was thrilled to see him get a great return because he had invested in me and had faith in me. So that was the start of Reve.
I love that. So what was you'd been in business before, and I feel like if anyone had gone through what you'd been through, the last thing that they would want to do is start another business, especially with a partner again. What was your reason for going back into business? I get that you saw the opportunity with perfume, but how did you get past that fear of this could happen to me again versus, this is a good idea and this is what I'm going to do? Why did you make that decision to step back into business and, of all things, back into a partnership?
I never saw myself working for an employer again. I have always felt that, when you're working for an employer, he's taking the cream from your value, from what you can produce. Whereas if you own it yourself, it's all coming to you and blessing other people if it goes well. So I had been let down, but that didn't scar me, I guess. I was still young enough to feel that, we could do this. But that failure, I was a bit naive. I left myself exposed from a business viewpoint. But I hear that a lot of people have early failures, and for me it was very educational. I'm thankful that it happened to me because I learned a lot from it. And going into business with someone I trusted didn't faze me at all. I think you have to be careful with partnerships, obviously, but if you have shared values and shared vision and the communication is great, and before you start out, you clarify expectations, kind of like a marriage, Sam.
It is like a marriage, yeah.
Well, you don't want to marry someone.
All the good things and all the bad things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think clarifying expectations is important. Like, you don't want to marry someone expecting to have 10 children and then your partner says, oh, I don't want kids, I don't, and you've already tied the knot. You clear up all of that beforehand, the roles. So my partner was a silent partner. He just let me have my head and run with it. And every year we seemed to double the business. We were growing at 100% year after year after year, and it just became a great joy.
That's
So that
amazing.
was.
So tell me, of all the business types you could have, I get perfume and I get that you saw a need and you were like, great, this is an opportunity, but why direct selling? Why not go retail? Why not go into another industry? Why stay with the direct selling industry specifically?
Well, my whole professional life has turned out to be direct selling. It was initially accidental because we just bumped into this little company, and like a lot of people do, we bought a kit and said, let's see how this goes. But
What the
because
heck?
it went so well
Yeah.
and we loved it, we just kept on with it. And here I am at age 75 and I'm still direct selling. I love that in direct selling, you can grow a business, from a little kit box, as was the case with us in Party Plan. So you don't have to invest in real estate. You don't have
It's
to
not a big
invest.
investment. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about advertising, about middlemen, um, about getting caught up in corporate structures here, there, or everywhere. You know, you
Yeah.
can build your dream from nothing. If it's good for you.
Yeah. I love it. So what did the start of this look like for you? I mean, you decide, okay, I can see there's a need, but women love perfume. What did, say, the first year in business look like for you guys? Did you just produce one perfume and tell a few people about it? Were you guys, your first consultants? How you said that you grew significantly year on year, but that comes from amazing leadership. So, what were some of the really important fundamental first steps you took to start a successful business in those early days?
Well, I guess because we started off with very limited capital and no income. Our income was what we sold doing our own party. So it was a party plan business. So I went out with a kit in my car doing parties. My wife went out with a kit doing parties, and we paid ourselves a commission from our sales, and that's what fed the family and the rent. And that went well, and we met people along the way who we were able to recruit into the business. Initially, we didn't have an office, a warehouse. We were just operating, out of the rumpus room in our little rented cottage.
I love it. I think the
Yeah,
best direct selling companies start that way.
yeah, a lot do. It's fabulous.
Yeah.
And then
So,
gradually, with the growth, we got an office, we got a warehouse,
yeah.
we had started to employ staff, and it became a little bit more corporate. But I think a lot of the success for it was the fact that Jenny and I did the business the same way we would expect anyone else to start in the business.
Yeah.
So we didn't buy a business and just run it from an office. We started by going out and meeting people and doing the business.
Yeah. And I love that. And I think that's a really, really important point as well. I think there's a lot of corporate teams, sadly, that don't have that same on the ground experience. And so they don't necessarily understand what it's like for those that are in the field that are growing a business this way. But you guys have literally hit the ground running and done it yourselves. I think that's just awesome. I want to know personally, this question from me, because I love your product. I've worked with you for years. I want to know, what was the first product that you released, and do you still have it?
Well, we started off with a range of 16 fragrances, and that was it. I had been, as I mentioned earlier, I had been selling perfume, so there was a little bit of background there.
Yeah.
But 16 perfumes, now we have about 40, and we do matching candles and body lotions and skincare and aromatherapy.
Yes. You've expanded dramatically. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. So now just quickly as well, tell me, what does Reve mean for our listeners? Where did the
Oh,
name come from?
yeah. So the Reve is French for the dream, and
Oh,
the thinking there in using that as a business name and a product name was twofold. Firstly, we were selling French perfume. We still do. Our perfumes are created in laboratories in Paris. French perfume, there's something to that. And secondly, the dream, direct selling is about people's dreams, isn't it?
yeah, I love that.
Yeah, so to us, it had a good feel.
Yeah, I love that so much. That's awesome. Now, I want to just come back to the partnership thing because, the thing that I really admire about you and your family is it hasn't always been smooth sailing. You've just told us, the story about, a time that I think vast majority of people honestly probably would have given up and you were like, second day, I'm going to need to get up and do something about this. And within 5 years, you were starting another business again. But what I find really fascinating, and I've had my own personal challenges as well with partnerships that go bad, and I'm extraordinarily nervous about this because partnerships that go bad don't just ruin a business, but they also ruin those relationships, which, you never get back again. They're never the same. You've obviously gone back into partnership. I know that, you then bought your partner out again 5 years later, but is all partnership dangerous? What are some of the things you've got to be careful of? And can it these days be a good business decision, or would you warn people against partnerships as they go into business?
I think I would just say to people to be fully informed. Don't jump in on a whim. It needs a lot of communication, a lot of discussion, and as I mentioned earlier, shared values are critical. You know, you wouldn't jump into business with someone that you didn't know and hadn't spent a few years journeying with. And when you
Mm-hmm.
journey with people, acquaintances, associates, friends for a few years, you really do discover the character that that makes them who they really are underneath, and
Mm.
that character is critical. Um, Shared values, and then if you decide to take that step, there needs to be a shared vision. Where do we want to
Mm.
take this? What do we want it to look like? What are we going to put into it? Um,
Yeah.
and then great communication all the way through.
Yeah. Something that you said before was you learned some lessons, you treated it like an educational experience. So I got a couple of questions around this, but the first is, what would you say is one of the biggest things that you learned about that mistake that you made with that first partnership and that first business venture?
Um, Not to leave myself exposed in business. I was young, I was naive. I thought I was a good friend with the person that this happened with, um, and um, I hadn't really discerned his character.
Mm-hmm.
Um, our friendship was probably superficial, um, and if I had have been more discerning, then I would have sensed that this was not the right person to go into business with. So,
Yeah.
so look, I don't say avoid it. One of my sons is in business with a partner, 50-50, and they're just going swimmingly. It's going brilliantly for them, and there's total
Yeah.
trust, great communication. They just really care for each other, and that's a celebration. So it can work really,
Yeah.
really well. But don't start off from a point of naivety. Don't just jump in quickly. Work out who this partner is going to be in terms of character,
Yeah.
integrity, values, and then share a vision.
Yeah, I love that, having the same vision and being able to discern that relationship. I think that's really important. Another thing, and I love this about your character, and I'm curious to know if it's just you, Phil, or if this is, potentially everybody, but people just make different choices. And I feel like it might be somewhere in the middle here. But something that, I've really learned about you is that you've got this attitude that bad stuff happens, but I can choose to learn from it. I can choose my attitude. I can choose how I respond. And, in this instance, you've gone, okay, great. I've had some tears, and now I'm going to, do something about this. But also the way you talk about the experience. And again, the reason I bring this up is because I've been through something similar, and I've also been through a divorce, and I'll say that going through a business partnership breakup where someone stabs you in the back, it is comparably painful to going through a divorce. It's a really horrible situation. And I think it really does break a lot of people when they go through horrible experiences like this. So I want to know, how did you get to that place of, and, I'm speaking to anyone who goes through any adversity in their business, as direct sellers, as people who are growing a business. You might have a leader leave and go to another direct selling company. You might have someone underneath you leave or do something, or whatever it might be that happens in your business. How do you have an attitude of, what can I learn from this, versus quitting or just being angry about it for a really long time?
Yeah, look, it's a great question, Sam. And I sense that you probably know the answers as well as I do, because you have a fabulous marriage now, and when I see you and Greg together, it just feels great. But for me, so if I could just introduce a thought, when we were starting Reve, we wanted to create a culture, because every business has a culture. And if you don't consciously create the culture that you want, you're going to end up with a culture anyway, and it may be less than what you want it to be. And so we were really poring over this, and we, at the time, we bumped into something that I treasure to this day, which was the work of Dr. Stephen R. Covey, who is the famous author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I just treasure his teachings in this amazing book and course, which I have found to be life-changing. And so rather than create something ourselves from nothing, we kind of adopted the 7 habits as a philosophical plank for our business, a way of living, a way of interacting with others, just a joyful way to do business. And when you look at habit 1, which is be proactive, as Dr. Covey would describe, is when we accept responsibility for our lives, instead of being a victim or blaming, putting it out there, and our life becomes a product of our decisions and not our circumstances, not our environment, not our conditions. Because we all have the freedom to choose, not always the freedom to choose what happens to us, but the freedom to choose our response. And I guess that goes back to your initial question. Why wasn't I so scarred, that I gave up forever? I guess this habit has just held me in very good stead, because, my life comes from within me, and not, where I live or who my friends are or what the politics are or what the weather is.
Yeah.
And so we get to choose. And I'm kind of a half glass full person. So I like to see opportunity and believe in myself and go for it.
Yep. So, I mean, I love that. And I really 100% agree with you. And this is something we speak to people about frequently, is you can't control what the world does, but you can control how you respond to it. But I'm curious to know what you would say to somebody who is feeling overwhelmed or hurt by a situation? How do they get themselves, or how would you get yourself out of that feeling of into being proactive and really being intentional about your response to the situation? Because you've got the emotional response and then you've got the intentional proactive response. How would you advise someone to go from emotional to intentional and proactive? Curious to hear what your thoughts are around that. It might be different for a guy versus a girl, by the way. I also acknowledge that.
Yeah, I've never really considered the question. I think emotional trauma, it takes a little bit of time. Like, you lose a loved one and you mourn, but at some point or another, you get on your feet and you get back to work. So I think when you're in the thick of emotion, that's not a good time to be making, life-changing decisions or important decisions. So I think give it a little bit of time. But I think you have to trust yourself, because every human being has potential. Like, I'm convinced that everyone who lives on this planet will die without ever achieving, a fraction of the incredible potential that they have. So believe in yourself.
Sad thought, but yeah.
Yeah, believe in your potential. And also, I think you have to have trust in other people. You have to be careful to where you apply that trust. But there's a lot of good people out there, aren't there, Sam? We see the headlines of the paper, we see the rat bags and the divisiveness and adversarialism and so on. But I think the bulk of people, in the planet that we live on, are good-hearted people who want good things for themselves, their families, and their friends. And so if you allow the scarring of a failed relationship in business or personal, to crush your life, it's just so unnecessary. I
love that thought that we've all got so much more potential than what we're tapping into. And, I said before that it's a sad thought. It's also a really exciting thought, and so true in so many ways, because, I'm a true believer that we all have everything we need around us to achieve our dreams, and even far greater than what we could possibly imagine. But a lot of that comes down to our resourcefulness and how willing we are to tap into the resources we have around us and within us. I think that's a really exciting thought that you bring up, that we've all got so much more potential that we could step into should we choose to do it. So I love that.
But we have to be open-minded to learn. Like, for example, for me, without the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is all about private victory precedes public victory, work on yourself first. And in working on yourself, you need to be open-minded, because if we have fixed paradigms and fixed attitudes, and we're very narrow, then we're never going to get the successes that we're capable of in life. But if we read good books, if we listen to great podcasts, if we connect with a mentor, for example, someone who has been very successful in life and has achieved fabulous outcomes, what can I learn from that? We need to be observational. What works for other people, what doesn't work for other people. Dr. Covey says that our paradigms are rarely complete, and more often than not quite incomplete. And so it's having that open-mindedness to learn, which I think is critical to setting yourself up for successes, either in your personal life or your business life.
Yep. Yeah, I so 100% agree. And you mentioned something there that I think is really important as well, and that was mentoring. Having somebody that has achieved some of the things that you aspire to achieve, or somebody who has been really successful. And, again, one of my true beliefs is that your network is your net worth, and the people you surround yourself with flavor you. It's like, if you sit long enough in, you put it's like you put your tea bag in a jar that's had some spices or something in it. Suddenly your tea bag, when you make your cup of tea, tastes like whatever those spices were. Like, you will take on the flavor of the people that you choose to spend the most time with. But if you're intentional about those people, you'll take their flavor on. And that'll help you grow. So I think that's a really important point. And I'm assuming that you utilized a mentor as well in your business and in your growth, in your journey.
I did. A few years in, we were growing, but we were a little bit scared as to where this might go. And fortuitously, we were introduced to someone who had had a significant success in direct selling corporately, general manager of the very large international business. He was in between projects, and so we invited him in to give us some advice. And we actually ended up in a business relationship. He is a consultant to our business for many, many years, traveled the world together, became the best of friends. But he looked at what we were doing, and he said, "Look, this is fantastic. You've done a lot of good things here." And then he said to me, "Phil, this can go all the way as long as you don't make any big mistakes." And he was kind of there to help us avoid some of those big mistakes. And
Yeah.
to this day, I celebrate that relationship.
Yeah, I think that's really important as well. A lot of people thinking they need to go it alone, which is reinventing the wheel that other people have already invented. People have been in business for a long, long time, and they know what some of those mistakes are. So don't try and do, whether your business is, a direct selling business and you're starting from scratch, as a consultant, whether you're starting an actual direct selling business, either way, there are people that have been through the rough yard. So don't try and be insular and do it yourself. Like, learn from somebody. And there are a lot of people in this industry, even from other companies, that are willing to share their experiences to help someone else be successful. Like you said, vast majority of people want to see others succeed. So I think it's important that we do tap into those people and those mentors. And I think that's a really, really wise piece of advice.
It's a good one, Sam. And we talk about abundance. And this is one of the great things about direct selling. There's such a powerful spirit of abundance as opposed to scarcity. I mean, that when CEOs of all the companies get together, we're all good mates. We celebrate each other's successes. Whereas, in other industries, I haven't seen that like I have in direct selling. Direct selling is such a celebration of people and people's aspirations, and there is a lot of abundance in our channel. So people, wherever they are, should feel free to reach out, and I'm sure most of the time they're going to get great responses.
Yeah, it does actually make me laugh because it makes me think of something, Phil, that just popped into my head as you were saying that. Typically at the direct selling conference every year, like, there are the awards that all the companies get. And one of the observations I've made is the one award that everyone gets most competitive about and most passionate about is the distributor award. Have you noticed this?
I have.
Where all of the companies get the chance to put forward a distributor whose story is really powerful, and they've overcome something or they've achieved something really big by putting in the work. And there are several parameters, obviously, to this award, but every company gets the chance to put, one or two people forward for this award. This is the one where, and I actually had the honor this year of sponsoring that award. So I was standing up there, holding the envelope, ready to announce it. And I got to watch everyone's faces in the room, all the companies. And it was the one where all of a sudden everyone was doing this, because every company in this industry wanted their people acknowledged because they wanted success for them. And it was so beautiful to watch. And what was even more beautiful was that when someone was announced, everyone in that room got excited from all of the companies. And if you remember, there were quite a lot of tears in the room. Like, it was a very beautiful moment. Even though that person wasn't someone from my company, everyone celebrated because it represents what this whole industry is about. And I thought that was just such a beautiful thing. I don't know if you observed the same thing I did, but
I did. It was the highlight of that session, and it was emotional. There were tears and hugs, but I think it kind of brings to the fore a principle in our channel, which is that of recognition. Yeah, our channel is 70% female, and my long years of observation of the world in which we live in commerce and industry is that women are on the very low side of receiving recognition. You work for an employer here, there, whatever. There's not much recognition. You put your heart into working for a company, and women in particular are rarely recognised for the contribution that they make. But in our channel, the direct selling channel, we celebrate everyone, but women in particular. I'm not being kind of sexist here, but it is a female industry largely. And I just love the recognition that we're able to give, and how that changes lives, how it lifts people up. It just adds something to their life that they would never find anywhere else.
I 100% agree.
It's fantastic. It's something that's fairly unique to our channel.
Yes. And I know you guys really use that well in your company too. I've got the honor and the privilege of having many of your Reve consultants inside of our membership programs, and I've been working with many of them for quite a few years. And I hear before lots of other people about your incentives, but there are a couple of them that just the one thing that they are most excited by, the big, hairy, audacious goal they want to achieve, is to be recognized and to walk across that stage. And I remember one of our members said it about 2 weeks ago. She told us on a Zoom, this is my goal. She said, I want to walk across that stage. And she said, the thing was that a year ago, I set this goal, but I didn't really know if I wanted it or not. She said, but then I walked across that stage. She said, and I heard my name announced. She said, and something in me switched. She said, I suddenly felt important, worthy, valued, she said, and it was like a drug. She said, I want it again. I want that recognition again. She said, and I'm doing absolutely everything I can this year, working as hard as I can to get across that stage again, because it just made me feel so amazing inside. And I thought, that's so special, but it is such an important part of what makes this industry what it is.
It really is. And I think, most of those who are recognised, it's not, for the glory, that is coming from other people. It's more an affirmation of their self-worth.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And that is really important, especially, like you said, and I don't want to peg women against men too much here, but, a lot of women, particularly, I would say those generations that have been the ones that have been bringing the kids up, they haven't really had the career. They haven't had that, independent, I suppose, identity outside of the family, a chance to be acknowledged as an independent person who has achieved something great on their own. When you spend your life, for a lot of these generations, being the person that does that for others, bringing the kids up and celebrating the kids' successes, but there's never really one for themselves that they've earned on their own. And so I think this is a really special thing. And for a lot of those people, this industry is the only place they get that. And it's a special place for them to feel like they're part of something bigger where others are doing the same thing too. I think that's really exciting. And I love coming to events in person to see that, because it really lights people up.
Yeah, absolutely, Sam. And look, even within the family, I think women are rarely recognised for what they do. Mother's Day comes around and there's hugs and kisses and hearts and so on, but the other
If
364
you're lucky.
days, women, it's all those unpaid hours which are a labour of love, but there's rarely commensurate recognition, and definitely outside of the family, in the business, in the working world. So it's wonderful that in our channel we do that really, really well.
Yeah. Well, I think some companies do that really well. We have seen a bit of a shift in that space since COVID, I think, with the in-person events becoming a lot more sparse. I'd like to see that becoming, a much bigger thing again. But one of the things I did want to chat with you about, though, Phil, that for me is absolutely standout for you guys, and the thing that keeps drawing me back and I just love watching, is the fact that you haven't just started a company and been in that company as a businessman with your wife, but you've involved your entire family in this industry, and you have shared your business journey with your kids. Like you said, you have got a very big family, and vast majority, is it all of your kids at some point were involved in direct selling, or most of them? Because I know now you've got a couple that we've interviewed both John and Kimball on this podcast before, who are obviously running some incredible companies, one of which is Reve, and John, who was recently on here, who runs New Skin. But and you've got others involved in the industry as well. I think you've got a daughter-in-law who is a leader with Thermomix and so on. So you have, did I get that right?
Daughter.
Okay, so there's in-laws as well involved in the industry too, right?
Yeah, that's right.
You've literally shared vision to your family. How have you involved your whole family in the business like this? So much so that they want to be a part of it rather than, I know a lot of kids, I was probably one of them, that grew up watching my parents in business thinking, I never want to do that because I saw an undesirable lifestyle with the way that they worked. How did you involve your kids, and how did you have them so, I guess, connected with the industry that they all wanted to be a part of it?
Yeah, good question, Sam. I think our early years in Reve were those initial growing years, and that kind of paralleled with the children in their primary years, early youth years. And so as we were growing the business, we involved them in some of the mundane things. All of the kids worked in our warehouse, packing products and packing orders and doing all of that. So they grew up with a work ethic, and they saw, the joy and the successes and the love that we had for our channel. And, they learnt the principles that were important to me in the business. I mentioned earlier the 7 habits, for example. All of my children have gone through that training, which is personal training. So kind of through direct selling, I think they learned a lot of incredibly valuable lessons, and they saw the richness of relationships that comes out of the industry. Some of them went into corporate positions with Reve after they had a field experience. And then marriage comes along, and I think 5 of my 6 children at one point or another were all involved in the industry, and most of them still are. Because I mentioned to you that direct selling was initially accidental to me. We just bumped into it when we were young and just married. And Sam, you want to have a profession, 40, 50 years, however long you're in the workforce. You don't want to just be earning income. You want to be making a difference, making a contribution. You want it to be satisfying, and that you've spent your lifetime in a good enterprise, a good pursuit. And as I look back at age 75 over all the years, 48 years in direct selling, even though it was initially accidental, I'm thrilled. I wouldn't change a thing. I'm thrilled that I ended up, devoting my professional life to direct selling because of the richness of relationships, the abundance, the travel, the sharing, being able to give recognition, being able to see lives changed. And I think my children kind of got a sense of all of that, which is why some of them have continued in direct selling and doing well.
Yeah. I love that. And, like I said, I've had the opportunity and the privilege of interviewing three of them, if you include your son-in-law as well, on this podcast. And each of them speaks so highly of that experience that they had watching you in business. And I think that says such a lot about your culture in business and your attitude in business, because and the fact that you've got that vision, because they've looked at it as a positive and something they want to be a part of versus something to be afraid of. Or, a lot of kids grow up saying, I want to do things differently to my parents, but yours have grown up and said, I want to be, I want to be like my dad. And I think that's really amazing. So I just want to honor you for that. And I know that you've recently received such acknowledgement as well from the DSA as a life member for the work you've done in this industry. And it really says a lot that, your kids aren't all in your company. I did make mention of that before. But you have, I guess, implanted this vision for the industry, not just for Reve. And I think that's really special. I'd love to see more of that. I'd love to see more companies, supporting other companies and working together. And I think that's such an incredible thing that you do. So, I really want to honor that. You've done that. I think that's really special. So thank you for being such an incredible advocate for this industry.
Thank you, Sam. And can I just mention, my son John going to New Skin. I've got a daughter who is a sales leader in Thermomix. And thinking of Laura in Thermomix, she has great product passion around the Thermomix product. And I think that's a really important point, for our listeners today. It's critical that you have genuine passion for your product.
Yeah.
Because our industry is all about authenticity, isn't it? And you can't fake it looking to get the sale. You've got to genuinely believe and sincerely believe that this is going to add value.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that brings up another very important question that I need to ask here, Phil, and that is, what is your favourite Reve product?
Oh,
he wasn't prepared for that one. I didn't tell him I was going to ask that question, by the
way. I have to pick, do I? Look, our aromatherapy range, we're very proud of it. We introduced that in Australia and New Zealand back in 1994. And at the time, aromatherapy was little known in this country. Yeah, you'd have to go to the dusty shelf at the back of a health food shop to find an aromatherapy, a pure essential oil. And we kind of had this vision, aromatherapy is so healing. It just has stunning therapeutic benefits without the side effects of drugs. And we were kind of the company that took aromatherapy out of that health food shop into the homes of Australians and New Zealanders. There's other companies that have been along since that have done very well. So I love aromatherapy, and I actually have one of our little products here. This is our first aid roll-on, which I just love. anything to do with the skin, a scrape, a burn, a scratch, a wound, a bite, anything at all, we just rub a little bit on and Bob's your uncle. So
Now,
that's my
I feel
favourite
like I asked you, I feel like I just asked you which one's your favourite child, and you quite happily answered that question just then.
Did I?
I love it. I do love the rollerballs. I am a big fan of them. So, yes, I've got to agree. And the essential oils are amazing. But I'm going to ask you another really touchy question here.
Sure.
And this is the last one before we get to the 4 fun questions. But you are a facilitator. Did I get this right? You're a facilitator for the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. So you teach this yourself. You actually went and got accredited to teach this. And this is something you put all of your consultants through. Is that right?
Our leaders, our field
Your
leaders.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
So here's my question. Of the 7 habits, which is either your favourite or do you think is the most important?
I mentioned habit 1 already, be proactive. That's the most important, because if you don't take that on, the other 6 are irrelevant, because they will only ever become personal habits of effectiveness for you if you nail number 1. So be proactive. My life is my own, my choice. My life is an outcome of my choices and my decisions, and not my circumstances. Because if you're into blaming your circumstances for your life, then you'll never live with vision, which is habit 2. You'll never live with daily prioritization, with habit 3. You'll never think win-win in your relationships with others. You'll think win-lose. You'll never seek first to understand it and then to be understood, and so on it goes. You won't sharpen the saw, which is habit 7. So everything hinges on habit 1, be proactive, accept responsibility for your life. It's yours to live.
Oh, I love that. Really, really powerful and really important. Now, so many more things I want to ask you, but I think we need to get to the 4 fun questions here, which we ask in every podcast. First one of those is, what is your favourite book for our accelerator book list?
Look, I can't go past the 7 habits of highly effective. I'm sorry to be repetitive on that.
It's good. Repetition is the mother of skill. I'm 100% there for it.
It is. And look, I've got a massive bookshelf. I have learnt from, through reading from all of the greats. But that is the one philosophy that has changed my life, and which I have seen change many other lives.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome. And if you could have a superpower, Phil, any superpower, what would it be and why?
Look, this was a hard question that you gave me a heads up on. To be honest, I'd like to be president of the world.
I think that would be a horrible job.
Well, it would be, but we live in this crazy world, and as I speak, there's so much warfare, there's so much divisiveness, confrontationalism, adversarialism, neighbour fighting neighbour. The world is just a very unsettled place, a place, and it doesn't need to be. It's so sad. If we were just kind to each other, if we sought first to understand instead of being understood, to quote habit 5 of Dr. Covey, just basic. Even the biblical teachings of Jesus Christ, a perfect roadmap for world peace. How hard can it be? So,
well, I've got to ask the question: if you were granted your superpower, what would be your first move?
Why? So to have that, I would only want that superpower if I could, create some sense of world peace, of bringing people together. And so
maybe that's the superpower, like supernatural world peace giving.
by bringing people together and
Yeah.
and seeking, having them each understand what's important to the other instead of preaching what's important to them. And the more understanding, the more chance for resolution and going forward. It's probably the impossible dream, but you did ask the question.
Yes, I did. And I'm fascinated. I'm always fascinated by people's answers here. And I have had some hilarious answers, by the way, to this question. But I just dissecting your superpower one step further, I feel like it might almost be like giving people a supernatural understanding of other people.
Yeah. Life, I mean, and we direct sellers know this better than anyone, that the fullness of life is all about relationships. I think the poet John Donne, wrote, no man is an island. When you think about it, from the minute you get up in the morning to when your head hits the pillow at night, your life is a process of relationships. Some of them very close, like family, others business, our friends, our acquaintances. And being able to build successful relationships is the only thing I think that is joyful to the individual. We see a lot of multi-billionaires who are the unhappiest people on the planet. We know wealth doesn't bring happiness. Relationships, absolutely. And that's the core component of our channel.
Yeah, it is one of the most special things about it, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah. And your favourite quote, Phil?
Okay, I wrote one out. I've got many, but I kind of like this one. James Allen was a well-known author. He wrote a book, As a Man Thinketh, which is kind of a takeoff from the biblical, the New Testament. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So he wrote this: the greatest achievement was at first and for a time a dream. The oak sleeps in the acorn. The bird waits in the egg. And in the highest vision of the soul, a waking angel stirs. Dreams are the seedlings of realities. So, and it really harmonizes with the 7 habits, because habit 2 is the vision habit, the dream habit. And then out of that, as we prioritize, we achieve the realities of our dreams.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I love that, and it's such a the picture that paints, but the reminder that the tree lives within the acorn, etc. I think that's really beautiful. So I love it. Last question, but by far, I think the most important question of the whole podcast is this: if you could go back in time and say one thing to your past self, what would that be?
For me, it would be to say to myself, it's not about you. We grow up and have our childhood experiences, and as young adults going out into the world, I think typically, not always, but typically, a lot of our focus and energy is all about what I want, what I need, what's good for me, what experiences do I want to have. And we're selling ourselves to other people. We're seeking first to be understood instead of first to understand. And then hopefully, as we mature and learn, we get to a point where it's not all about us. And as we trust others, as we help and support others, as we become good friends to others, and we start giving, creating a legacy, a contribution, then I think we discover what life really should be all about. So I would say to myself at age 20, Phil, it's not about you.
I love it. Well, I think that's a really great way to finish up. And I really want to honour you and thank you for all the work that you've done in the industry and for all the lives that you're impacting every day, and that you have made it not just about people earning an income, but about growing personally as well. And I think that literally is changing the world. So thank you so much, Phil. We appreciate you. And I appreciate you coming in here today to share the Reve story with our listeners as well.
Thank you, Sam. And can I just say that I appreciate the work that you do, with Greg's support. You have the real spirit of direct selling. And like even these podcasts, it's a lot of work for you to do this, but it's a contribution to all of the listeners to bring good things into their lives and to move their paradigms to something, pretty exciting. So, I think you reflect the spirit of our industry in a beautiful way.
Yeah, thank you so much. And it's a privilege for us to be able to do it. It really is. So thanks again to our beautiful listeners for tuning in. We appreciate you spending your time with us today, and look forward to seeing you again on the podcast next week. If you did love this episode, don't forget, of course, to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our upcoming episodes. But if there's something in here that spoke to you that you think could help somebody else, please go ahead and share this with them. This is about impacting as many people as we can to help them have the life of their dreams too. So thank you all so much, and we'll see you on the podcast again next week. That's it from us. Bye for now. Thank you for joining us in this episode of the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. If you love listening and you found that this was helpful for your direct selling business, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also check out the recommended video that's popped up on your screen right here. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye for now.